Well, thank you for all that you do, David. We appreciate that. We'll move on to District 2.
Hi, this is Brian Pfeiffer, District 2 Commissioner. Things have been relatively quiet till we received in the mail the update for the Olentangy Trail completion for the 0.6 mile gap to connect the, I guess, northbound, southbound parts of the trail, avoiding going through Milton. So I've gotten a lot of people who have been very interested in finding out more about that. I've been trying to make sure everybody got postcards in the District 2 to know about it, and just trying to come up with my constituents ways to make sure everybody in District 2 gets their opportunity to have a say at the meeting, and very looking forward to what Tom has to say when he talks about it more tonight and can hopefully share that with the constituents as well.
Well, thank you, Brian. We appreciate that update. Sounds like you've done some great outreach in your district. All right, we'll move on to District 3.
Hi, I'm Libby Weatherhold, and I'm the Commissioner for District 3. We'll start back with just before Christmas. We received an email through the Commissioner email from Robin Razor Thompson at Ohio State Alumni Association, and it was such a nice communication to receive. The North Broadway Street Association lost one of its very, very fond members on West North Broadway, so it's really in Brian's district, but I claim North Broadway, you know. And anyhow, Richard Sizemore was a very humorous, wonderful individual. I really only met him once, and he was just a stitch. I got a whole tour of his backyard and everything. Anyhow, he and his deceased partner, at that time, it's been a couple of years since his partner was deceased, were made themselves in charge of decorating the Welcome to Clintonville sign there on West North Broadway. And Richard's partner even managed to get electric under the sidewalk to be able to have lights around the sign and everything. And so Richard passed away, I believe, in mid to late November, and North Broadway Street Association was struggling because we have several people who are having big health problems on that part of the street and everything. And we just weren't sure how we were going to manage keeping that sign up. And anyhow, so Robin Razor Thompson had communicated with us that Richard Sizemore worked at the Alumni Association for a long time. I want to say 30 years. I don't know the number, but anyhow, she said they were very close. He was part of the events team, and they had made up their mind that they wanted to take over the decoration of that sign for various seasons. And it was such a welcome addition and such a heartfelt contribution to our street. And we are just very thankful and touched that they would want to do that. So they are in touch with the North Broadway Street Association, and we will be working with them. And we thank them for everything that they got done this year in such short order, because they didn't, Richard's death didn't give them a lot of notice. So that was a wonderful, heartfelt addition. Also, I had contacted Blueprint, Leslie Westerfelt, because my district, and probably down into District 1 with David, we had been told that we were going to have a meeting concerning Blueprint early in 2021. And so I wanted to try to get up to date on that. And then I had also heard, before I contacted her, from one of the residents on Walhalla that Blueprint was just washing their hands of any special treatment of Walhalla. And I was really concerned about that, because they were doing a special study and all kinds of things. And that was a couple of years ago. So anyhow, I contacted Leslie, and they still have not scheduled a meeting for the south part of Clintonville. And this is an early planning stages meeting. It's not, has nothing, set in stone or anything, but they still don't have that. She's thinking now it'll be early spring that they get that. And so they still have us in mind, and they're still working on us. She also said that there have been no final decisions regarding Walhalla Ravine. The survey report is not completed, and she said that this was right before New Year's. So this week, maybe next week, she's going to check in with the leadership team on an updated timeline on that. So that made me feel a lot better. I also just encourage everybody. I've put in one pothole request. I've got a couple more that I need to do. If you see any big potholes, I think I saw one on Oakland Park that I drove past, and I've got to go back and see it. But anyhow, put in your 311s on potholes. And our lovely resurfaced Brynhild Hill Street that just got done this summer has another water leak on it. And I went, oh no, our pretty street. And anyhow, I put in a request on that, and they're looking into it. It looks like perhaps all of the drainage tiles and everything that they put in with the total street rebuild. It looks like, of course, the leak is just above where the drainage tiles went in. So the big problem is, of course, that Brynhild is a big hill, steep, and with water running down it and the temperatures being where they are, I am concerned about a lot of slipping and sliding, both with walkers and people who drive down there and don't realize how wet it is. But anyhow, we're working on that too. And I think that's my district report.
You've been very busy there, Libby. We appreciate the updates and keep up the good work. District 4.
Hi, BJ. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Judy.
So I think we're kind of getting off to a good start. It's really long-awaited news to hear about the trail wrapping up. Lots of positive feedback in my neighborhood. I sent out invitations for folks to join the group meeting later this month, and of course to sign in for tonight. We think we are seeing signs of improvement at Starbucks. I haven't spotted any traffic jams within the last few days since they started their new system, but mostly, just starting off to a good start, at least locally. So thanks.
Thank you, Judy. All right, that leaves us with District 5.
Hi, everyone. Brittany Bolton from District 5 here in Central Clintonville. I have had a fairly quiet over the holiday season, not too many requests, but I am hoping to host my next community hours virtually. I'm looking at next Saturday, the 16th, so I'll confirm that, and then I'll send you an email offline, Chair White, just to confirm the Zoom credentials. So looking forward to having that.
All right, well, thank you. We appreciate that. Good outreach. District 6. Indra? She was here. It's a busy meeting.
Her square's not there right now.
Yeah. Oh, we'll circle back. We'll circle back. She must have fallen off. So let's circle back to District 6. We'll move on to District 7.
Michael Wyman. I don't have anything to report, thanks.
All right, thank you. District 8.
Hi, Jim Garrison, District 8. Not a tremendous amount of things to talk about, but the latest conversations in the neighborhood are regarding speeding. Some of the people, because we're up there by Morrison High Street, There are people who are kind of cutting the intersection going through East Jeffrey, Royal Forest, Beachwald. And, that's unfortunate, but I think it also has to do with the fact that a lot of people are home. So they see these things, whereas otherwise they may not have, if they were at work. As a result of, what I speculate might be because people are home, they're more active and they're walking around their neighborhood looking at other things. And there's renewed conversations about how we can get sidewalks. So streetlights and sidewalks are more kind of coming to the forefront in the discussions. So speed bumps and stop signs and sidewalks and streetlights. And these are a few of their favorite things this year. And so I'm going to be keeping an eye on that going forward and seeing any opportunities that we have to push that as a priority. One other thing, I'm going to be having a community meeting on Zoom sometimes at the end of this week, or sorry, not this week, sometime at the end of this month. And I'll probably post it on my site, Facebook page, as well as, maybe on the CAC page.
Okay, well, just let me know and I'll slide you the credentials and enable your hosting ability. And we'll do that. We'll do that in compliance with the city's request for meetings. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And Jim, have your people been filling out the survey?
I believe they have.
Okay.
And the one question that I had was if the link is still active as of right now and people can still fill it out.
Zach?
Yes, it is. It is still live right now. So everybody can continue filling it out.
Okay.
All right. I am BJ White. I represent District 9. And I would say that I overlap a concern that Commissioner Garrison shared of District 8. We have a lot of fast traffic trends happening on Lincoln Avenue, and the cut through from Foster to Canal, where the traffic light is, where nobody stops. So we continue to agonize with that. Otherwise, the city did a great job with clearing the snow on the days that we had snow. Everybody's kind of, gearing up with the Christmas tree composting and keeping up with the recycling. A lot of cardboard at everybody's curbs. So yeah, we're just kind of muddling through, and a lot of cross communication about so many things going on. I have disseminated the survey, so I'm hoping to get more participants in that. If I could just ask that you keep that up, maybe for another week, that would be ideal. Because we are still sharing it pretty abundantly, but we just, got to get people to participate. And I think it's important that people understand that when you're talking about sidewalks, curbs, a lot of these concerns that have come to the forefront with the green infrastructure and with, with the street lights and other things. There's a lot of concerns in that survey about streetscaping. And I think it would behoove all of us to really promote that survey. And it's so nicely crafted that it does, as you're answering them, it kind of layers and filters and really helps, just through very, just through selection, it does a great job of helping you realize what your priorities are without even trying, without even really kind of poking you and saying, can you prioritize your answers? It's just so well crafted that I think anybody's going to really enjoy doing that. And then when they get to question 10, they've realized, well, I've just prioritized what's important to me in Clintonville. And I think whoever did that did a great job.
Zach, kudos to Zach.
Hey, Zach. And I hope to have another, I had a great district meeting in November, and I hope to have another meeting this month too. So hopefully get that on the calendar, and then I'll shoot out my email and get meet up with everybody and see how they feel about some upcoming trends. So thank you. All right, we are ready to move on to Commissioner Bolton, our secretary, in consideration of prior meeting minutes.
On December 29th, the PDF copy of our December meeting minutes and voting record went out. I received edits from Commissioner Weatherholt. Thank you so much for your close reading. I really appreciate it month over month. It really does help me make these accurate. So I really appreciate that. And I also had an edit from Commissioner Weinman. So without any further edits, or confirmation from Commissioner Weinman, I would just ask for a motion if the chair would allow for the minutes to be approved.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then Commissioner Carpenter, are you back with us? Okay, well, we'll wait to see if she's able to join back in. We'll circle back to her for district report and for the treasurer report. Oh, here she is. But we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and let Kendra get reacclimated, and we'll move on to Catherine Call, our delightful neighborhood community liaison.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The first area commission training, I sent an email to all of you guys last week. It takes place next Wednesday. This training is about building your brand on social media. So it is going to support you in creating a strategy for your media brand, describing and identifying various social media platforms, how to communicate effectively on social media, and deal with negative feedback and criticism, which I think all area commissions could really benefit from right now. The registration for this training closes Monday, January 11th at 11:55 p.m. And once again, it takes place on January the 13th, which is a Wednesday. You guys should have all, and please let me know if you haven't, received an email from Sandra Lopez and City Council. They are looking at reimagining safety and police in our city. So it's a somewhat lengthy survey. It will probably take you a good 10-15 minutes to fill out, but they are really looking at who are in the totality of times we call the police, or there are other mechanisms, people, supports we can reach out to, and looking at reimagining safety and police in our city. So I encourage you guys to fill out that questionnaire. And if you have not received it, or you cannot find it, I can resend that out to the area commission to share. And those are my announcements, but happy to answer any questions you guys have as well.
Are there any public attendees or any commissioners have any questions for our wonderful community liaison, Catherine?
I don't understand what point of sale means in regard to Starbucks.
So from what I understand is during peak sale hours is the Starbucks employees are to go out to the car, similar to like the Chick-fil-A style.
I don't go to Chick-fil-A either, so I don't.
So I've been to Chick-fil-A once. So you
Okay.
kind of pull up, they come out, take your order, go in, make the order, and then bring it back out and pay for it, to avoid, once again, at peak hours, the intersection from being too backed up and blocking the street, is from what I understand that they're doing. Now, I know
do we know what peak hours are?
I do not, but I can find that out.
Because I know that I contacted you about a time that I went back to 10:30 in the morning, give or take. And it was backed out onto High Street. Not a lot, but still it was probably 10 cars, not onto High Street, but clear through the parking lot and everything. And so I don't, it's hard to tell at Starbucks what a peak hour is. I'm sure 8 o'clock in the morning is peak hour, but kind of looked like 10:30 in the morning was still a peak hour. So
I could find that out for you. And I know that this is still kind of a trial period, and we were going to meet again at the end of this month. So I appreciate the feedback. I shared that with public service. So at the end of January, we sit and talk with public service, Columbus Police. I don't know if Starbucks will be on the conversation to provide their feedback as well, but we will certainly look at 311s and any other commissioner community feedback.
And Google gives a pretty good snapshot on peak hours too. So if you just look up Starbucks Clintonville,
Oh, thank
Google
you.
profile, it has a little bar graph of, when its peak hours are.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any more questions for Catherine? Questions for Catherine. All right. We're going to welcome next. Let's go ahead and circle back to Commissioner Carpenter. She's going to give her district report, followed by the treasurer's report. Hi, Kendra.
I apologize. I was having some computer issues and I'm still having some glitches, so bear with me. As far as hi, I'm Kendra Carpenter. I am the District 6 Area Commissioner. As far as my district goes, it's a little bit more noisy than I have become accustomed to, which is not a bad thing. We're still dealing with some traffic issues, and I've talked to Catherine about this, and I'm now in touch with Philip Hansen at the city. We've having some traffic issues relative to Watterson High School, and there's a phlebotomy school around Aldridge Road area. And what I've seen, and one particular resident is the one that's kind of speaking for the neighborhood, all the streets surrounding Aldridge have parking restrictions. Aldridge has no parking restrictions, so everybody is flooding on that street. And I know it's a public street. We've had this discussion kind of ad nauseum, but the problem is that these students are blocking residents' driveways, and they are not able to park. They're not able to get out of their driveways, and it's creating a very hazardous situation. We've dealt with this with Watterson before, and Watterson's been very good and gracious about talking to their students, but it doesn't quite solve the problem. So what I've suggested to Catherine, and what I wasn't able to get to Philip Hansen today because I was in trial, but he and I were supposed to talk today, and I'll try to call him tomorrow, was maybe looking again and revisiting some of these parking restrictions and taking them away, or making a parking restriction on Aldridge and making things kind of equal. So that's kind of in process. I also had a question from one of my residents up around the old Beachwald area, and I haven't been able to connect with him. I've left him a couple messages, but there was a situation, I guess, that arose about a wounded deer in the neighborhood, and he titled his email to me, "Question about deer hunting in Old Beachwald." So when I got that, I kind of, I was like, I wonder what that's about. But I think that maybe that's why I'm kind of reading into it, is that maybe a deer was shot in that area, and we're not quite sure what's going on with that. So I'm still trying to get to the bottom of that. Other than that, things are pretty quiet. Happy New Year, everybody. As far as the treasurer's report, we are still very flush with cash. One thing I'm going to be talking to the city about, and what's supposed to be happening at the end of every fiscal year, is they're supposed to take back the money that we didn't spend for that particular fiscal year. And the last two times I've been doing the reporting, they have not done that. So we are actually above our budget, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can use it, because this year we have a $3,500 budget. So I'm not quite sure why that extra money's there. I'm kind of ignoring it for now. But we haven't had a lot of expenses for this first half of the year, and the year ran from May 1st until November 30th. So we've got the reporting and all that stuff done. What I want to remind everybody, though, is I need your expenses on time, because if you have something that you've incurred in October, it's really important that you get it to me timely. If you get it to me in January, it's really hard, because then I'm missing that reporting deadline, and I may not be able to reimburse you. I mean, I'm pretty stringent with my requirements, and I don't mean to be, but it just makes my life easier and having to explain less to the city. along the same lines, it's really, really important. And I know it kind of gets tedious, and I don't mean to be nitpicky, but before you incur an expense, and this goes to everybody, you got to let me know, because I have to make sure that we have enough money where it falls into the budget. Right now, and BJ, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about this, but we are over budget on a certain area, and it has to do really with the pandemic and the way that we're doing things on Zoom. It's not a big deal, but I have to go to the city now and revise our budget. But it just kind of creates this, it's fixable. But I guess the lesson from here is, please let me know before you incur an expense so that I know that we can line item this on our budget. And I'd rather be proactive with the city rather than reactive. So that's what I've got.
Okay, thank you for that. We will go ahead and move on to our CAC Election Committee Chair, Ann Heckner. Welcome, Ann. Ann, you're on mute.
Better?
Yes, there you are.
Okay. Okay, and following the treasurer's report, I will give you a sense of what we look to the expenses to be for the election. $33.34 for the post office box, which is what it was last year. I'm assuming it hasn't gone up, but it'll be in that neighborhood. If we need to use tents because the library is still closed, that will be a zero expense. Thank you, BJ.
You're welcome.
The library does our printing, and I am in contact with Terry Sharkey about the things that we will need from the library and kind of our big contingency plan here. So I have no reason to believe that isn't going to work out just fine. And then what we want to do is, one of the biggest problems was this whole return self-addressed envelope stamped. So we decided just to get rid of that, and you send your ballot request form in. We gather it up from the post office to the drop box. We make out an envelope back to you from the information you've given. We put the stamp on it. We send it, and we send it back. So those stamps would be out of our budget, but it's going to solve one of the major snafus of people getting deprived of their vote. So I don't know what the postage is going to be. It could be $0. It could be, I don't imagine it would be over $100. That would be almost 50 people. I don't think it's going to be that much, but there's a range that it's going to be in, and I really can't predict that until I know the level of competition in these districts.
And I'm sorry, my audio cut out. I apologize. Are you saying that we are going to provide stamps for them to mail their ballot in?
No, we're just going to provide, they need to put the stamp on the ballot request form and mail that in. Then we were last year requiring the self-addressed stamped envelope to be put in there, or we wouldn't send you a ballot. So a lot of people didn't get ballots, and I don't like that situation very well. So instead of doing it that way, we would just supply, I have envelopes here, not a problem. We'll just put the ballot in the envelope, send it back. Then they need to get it back to us again, either Dropbox or by mail with their stamp. But that self-addressed stamped envelope that you had to put in with your ballot request form will no longer be required, but then we're going to have some postage to pay.
I think we're going to have to talk about that amongst the commissioners to think about line item, like how we're going to budget that, because that's going to be really difficult. I mean, probably it's not going to be a problem. I mean, given what our voter turnout is, but you know, it could be a problem. And if we have 1,000 people that want ballots and we have to have 1,000 stamps, that's a lot of money that we don't have to provide.
Okay, it's up to the commission to decide. If you don't want to do it, you know, if you want to go back to the self-addressed stamped envelope in with the form, that's fine. It's easier for us actually to require the self-addressed stamped envelope be in there and not have to make out not have to address it and stick the postage on and everything. So, I mean, that's a call for the commission to make, and I'm happy either way.
As much as I appreciate the extra amount of work for folks who are working on this election in a volunteer capacity, I think that it's definitely well worth the effort based on the feedback I got from neighbors about the process of the mail-in voting. And I really appreciate the attention to this. So if we can find the funding for it, I think it would be really valuable. Obviously, I'm running next year, so that's kind of where I'm coming from here. So I'll be fully transparent, but
Karen, I do have plenty of CAC stationary envelopes. So I'll give you a stack of envelopes so that you don't have to delve into your personal stash.
My personal envelope stash, yeah.
Yep. And it's and I can even put labels on there for the post office box too. I've got sheets of labels for the post office box. So I can give you
we're gonna have our own personal box, right?
Yeah.
Your labels won't work.
But I have sheets of blank labels and I can print out for you as well.
Okay.
I think Kendra brings up a good point that in terms of how we budget for this. I think the way to do this, I think it's a very, very worthwhile thing to do this. I think for the sake of budgeting and assumptions, I think we could look back over the last, say, 4 years of elections to average out the number of voters and get an idea of what we should maybe set aside for this. We've never had 1,000 voters. We've never had anything close to 1,000 voters. So I don't think there's any reason to believe that's going to happen. But if we averaged out, say, the last 3 or 4 years, I think we'd get a pretty reasonable idea of what we should set aside. And it may be a little bit more or a little bit less. But if we budget nothing, then we're off, right? If we budget something, we might be a little high or a little low. And I think we can easily sort of average out 3 or 4 years and get an idea.
Anne, are we able to find, like, can you go back historically and see how many absentee ballot requests that we've had?
The amount of voters that we have is not relevant, particularly because many years we've gone to the post office and found it totally the box empty. There have been many, many races where all we've had is the in-person voting, and nobody has taken advantage of the mail-in option. So
we also did not encourage the mail-in option for years.
Right.
So I think that could change the dynamics a bit, but I don't think it's enough that it'll bankrupt us.
Yeah, I'll try to look back and see if I reported, I'm not sure if I reported it mail-in versus in person or not, but I'll go back and look.
I think it's worth having an idea of how large the overall voting was, because I just think with what's been going on with the pandemic and everything else, I don't think you can look at past years of mail-in voting, but just the overall number of votes. You know, as Libby pointed out, in past years, nobody wanted to vote by mail, or very few people did, and I think that might be a very different thing today and going forward.
Well, there was the District 2 contested race where there were over 200 votes in that one race. Yeah. But that was by far, mostly it's like 16 to 17.
Right, yeah.
7 to 8, or maybe in your case, is somebody going to come in and vote at all?
My first election was over 300, so.
Well, you're special.
Kendra, I have a question for you. In what category does postage fit? Miscellaneous expenses?
I believe so, yeah. I don't think it's consumable anymore. I have to.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
I've got it in front of me. It is under miscellaneous expenses.
That's what I thought.
Can you provide us a kind of synopsis of where we are fiscal year to date on what our expenditures in that category is?
I can. Give me 1 second. It's on my computer, and it's going to take me a minute.
Okay. Well, how about if you just kind of copy me and Ann on that email and just let us know where are we year to date in that particular category and what is our total budget so that we can kind of gauge off of that ratio where Ann needs to plan accordingly.
Yeah, I'll have it here in just a second.
Okay.
Well, once the die is cast and we've decided which way we're going, the planning is gone. It's just a matter of waiting to see how many people request the mail-in ballots.
As of right now, we have $1,490. So, I mean, that's our biggest, that line item is usually our biggest one right now. But like I said, I've got to move around some numbers. But I mean, it shouldn't be less than, we shouldn't have less than, I'd say $1,000 to $700.
So our year-to-date expenditures in that category in the miscellaneous is 1,490?
No, it's 160. We have remaining in the budget on that line item is $1,490. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. I just asked for clarification. Okay. And I think we're going to be in good shape. So I think we'll be okay. All right. Ann, you want to move on to the next topic?
Well, can I say something about the timeline?
Oh, I was going to let Ann go ahead and present that. And also,
okay. I thought you were moving off.
No. So Ann, would you mind if I did a screen share with the timeline?
Oh, please do. Yeah, that's what I sent it to you so that you could use it.
Yeah, I actually had a question about the timeline. There were a couple things that I had a question on, and it didn't dawn on me until I was inputting them in the CAC calendar. So I'm gonna pull those up and screen share those.
Yeah, whatever changes in that we want to make, we may have to adjust the rules because a lot of this is, you have to have this many weeks before this and that many weeks before that. So the schedule is really somewhat inflexible without some changes to the rules.
Okay, give me just a minute. Screen share, where's my rules? Bam, okay. All right, can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, I wonder if Libby and I are kind of eyeballing the same questions. So let's just go down this each item here real quick, Ann. I had a few questions, but Libby, did you have some highlighted that you wanted to ask her?
Yeah, my only concern is sending the information to the newspapers. With the changes in our newspapers and with the Clintonville Spotlight basically being the only one that carries any news from Clintonville anymore, and it being once a month, we're going to have to get it to them much, much earlier. And maybe some of the information won't be as specific as we would like it to be, but we're really only going to be able to have the April 1st newspaper with any kind of information.
Okay. I've often sent out things ahead of what the schedule says. This is really, in my mind, the last day you can do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's my only concern because otherwise somebody, they will have to go to our website or whatever, because I'm sure whatever is left of the booster is not going to have anything, and there don't seem to be any other alternatives.
So may I ask, Ty Hulbert, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. May I ask you to work in concert with Ann in putting together a schedule for our social medias? And then I know that you have been masterful at putting together graphics in the past. Will you please, as chair of our tech and PR committee, will you please work in concert with Chair Heckner to do your work your magic with a graphic and do some scheduling, do some scheduled posts on our social medias, and then work with, if you could, work with Anna finding out what the publishing deadline is for the April spotlight. And maybe Commissioner Bolton would like to execute on her idea of doing a media release.
Yeah, we can definitely work on that together.
Okay, so just keep that in mind that we want to do this for the April spotlight. I know that Commissioner Bolton has met with Nancy Kuehl, who works for the spotlight, so maybe she can lend some of her expertise on what she's learned and discovered there. But I'm counting on the Tech and PR committee to work in concert with the election committee to put together a schedule of posts on social media that are timely and of import to the election, and then work with Commissioner Bolton in executing that wonderful idea of a media release.
I'm happy to draft a press release.
Great. I have for you, Anne, I have posted all of these dates onto the CAC website. There were a couple of things that I wasn't sure on the locale that I left blank on those posts. So, for example, go ahead.
I've been in contact with Terry Sharkey at the library, and he's been out sick. And anyway, I'm not gonna. These are aspirational locations at this point because I haven't been able to talk to Terry yet, and I'm trying to kind of assume that the library is going to be open to the same extent that it's open right now, which is you can go in there and ask the desk to go get your book that you reserved, and then you can leave. So you could do that same thing with a petition, I would hope, or they could have them, so we could. I don't want to put them on the website because I want to have that sheet that people sign off on that says, "Hi, I swear that I picked up this,"
Yeah, the affidavit, yeah.
You hold the rules against me because I picked up a copy of your rules.
Yeah.
And it also tells us who is out there circulating signatures, or if there's a district that doesn't have anybody out there who's trying to get signatures. It gives us that information. So I do want to keep that way of doing it and not put that on the website. But that requires a place like the library, or worst comes to worst, you just have to make arrangements and come to my house and I'll give you a petition. But I'm still working with the library to see how much of this they think they can work into their.
Okay, well, please keep me and Ty apprised of that so that we can make the proper edits on the published information.
I think a number of times I said at the library or something, which might be the library parking lot or the library inside, whatever. It's kind of at the library somewhere, look around.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, we are, I think that's all that I had so far as questions. Are there any other questions from any of the commissioners for Chair Heckner's proposed timeline? Okay. All right. And just so you know, I want to also share. I'm gonna screen share. I'm actually going to. I'm going to screen share one other item. I want to be able to show you. Let's see, right here, and bam. Okay. Well. There it is. Okay. So for the election timeline, you can see here that everything's been updated on the calendar. So if you see, the calendar is very busy with with content, it's because I've put everything that Chair Heckner has provided in the way of the timeline. So when I go to the CAC candidate petitions ready to be picked up, I go to details, and we'll pull that up on the calendar. And then you can see here that I've actually posted the election rules as an attachment and the election timeline right there in that event. So when somebody looks it up on our calendar, which will be cross-posted with our socials, and Ty will put the link to more information using the CAC website, people will be able to go to that calendar and see the rules. And this is also, and they'll be able to pull up the timeline. So the rules and the timeline will be posted on the calendar, contained in the day's event, and in our newsfeed on our website, and in our documents tab on our website. So the election rules will not be elusive. We will do our best in the spirit of transparency to make sure that everybody is aware of the election rules and the election timeline. So it'll be all hands on deck. It'll be everywhere. So just wanted to let you know that. And just like Kendra said, I think you all received quite a flurry of emails from me, and that's because I included everybody on those calendar events that I created for the election timeline. All right, Anne, what else?
That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Wyman.
What was changed in the rules?
Do some of this by memory. The petition would have 25 signatures instead of 50. There would be, if there are no regular candidates who submit petitions with signatures and you want to be a write-in, there would be an even lower number. I think it's 20. And there's also an email option to get the signatures. It's written out in the rule that it needs to contain the name of the district number and the name of the person that you're voting for, and that you're over 18. And anyway, there's a whole rule about that candidates need to be pretty cognizant of. Voting will be in person. It might be in the parking lot. We don't know what access we're going to have to the library. If things are in May, the same as they are right now, the meeting room will not be available, nor will any space in the library. So we're going to have to hope for a nice day or we will have no voters. I'm in discussions with the library, with Terry, about a drop box in the library. I think that might be a doable thing, just out in that foyer area, because that's usually, as long as that's staffed, there's somebody there to watch the box, and there's also somebody there to take the ballot and put it in the box. And we will do the return envelope. The committee will do the return envelope instead of requiring voters to mail in the return envelope. I think those are the big ones. I'm not swearing that there isn't more. I will have these out to you at least 2 weeks before the next meeting. I'll have them out in the next 2 weeks.
Is that when we'll vote on them, or are we voting on them tonight?
You need to vote on them at the February meeting.
Okay.
Because the schedule begins in late February.
Right.
All right, I have a couple of questions here in the chat window. How are the candidate packets being made available for pickup this year? Never mind if people are allowed to walk in and pick them up. Okay. And then we are voting on them in February. Okay. All right. So are there any more questions for Chair Heckner about the upcoming election? Can you recap what districts are up for re-election?
Ooh, 4, 5, 7.
Okay. All right.
Oh, can I say something, BJ? Sorry.
Oh, no, please go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to thank Anne for getting the very concise guidelines together in a timely manner. I know it's hard to guess with COVID how open and closed things are going to be. I'm not going to be running for another term, so that will really help me in recruiting somebody else from my district and getting the word out. So thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Judy. Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any more questions to wrap up that conversation? All right. Thank you again, Chair Heckner. We appreciate all your hard work. Please convey our gratitude to your committee, and we'll look forward to seeing you in February.
Okay.
All right. Next on the agenda, running just a few minutes ahead of schedule, I'd like to introduce to you and warmly welcome Tom Hibbard with the American Structure Point to discuss the Olentangy Trail completion.
Well, thank you, BJ. And also with me is Stephanie Tresso with Murphy Epson, and also Fonda Welker, our project engineer, one of the project engineers working with me on the project. And Brad Westall, I think, is also here, right?
Yes.
All right.
Good evening.
Hi, Brad.
I'm going to go ahead and try the share screen here. I need the host to enable that, I guess.
Yeah, sorry about that. I apologize.
Nope. I did that for you without warning you. Sorry.
I was asleep at the wheel. I apologize.
There we go. Hopefully that's okay. You can see the slideshow now?
Yes.
All right. Very good. Stephanie, would you like to start?
Thank you, Tom. I'd be glad to start. So as Tom said, we really want to thank the commission for having us here tonight. We're going to be talking about the completion of the Olentangy Trail. My name's Stephanie Tresso. I'm with Murphy Epson. I'm a member of the Structure Point team. We've had a couple of stakeholder briefings, and we know that the trail runs through Clintonville. And so being able to talk to commission members and to get some feedback from you before we have our public meeting in a couple of weeks was very important to us. So we are glad to be here. And again, Chair White, we want to thank you for that opportunity. I think that Brad Westall from Columbus Recreation and Parks also wanted to say a few words, and then we'll dive into our presentation.
Thanks, Stephanie. And I second that. Appreciate the chance to be with the commission tonight. And, you know, we're all very familiar with the trail. And I've come to the commission before about different projects on the Olentangy Trail and of course in the Clintonville area, and we're excited about bringing this one forward. It's been in the works for a long time, and it's kind of cool in 2021 here to be here discussing it with the team, and we're actually really engaged in it and getting feedback from area commission and folks that are key stakeholders, and then the public on the 21st. We got two letters from the area commission in support of this project in 2018. That was when we were applying for funding for this project, because it's a big scale. It's not a small thing, and we really appreciated that, because that with MORPC and granting authorities meant a lot. And I know that this project is important to your community and really to the region as a whole. There's several 100,000 people a year that pass by this part of the Olentangy, the central section, if we can call it that. And things are now we have an opportunity. We are funded for this project, and things are moving forward that we can get started with it. So hold on here. Tom will walk us through some of the alternatives. There's more than one way to do any of these kind of projects, and we certainly are happy to present them to you. So Tom, take over.
Okay, thank you. And before I do, I just wanted to give a little bit of a shout out and a thanks to Brian and Judy for helping us get the word out in Clintonville there regarding the project and the upcoming meetings. So thank you for your help with that. I will go ahead and I've got on the screen here a map of the southern portion of the Olentangy Trail. Believe it or not, the trail originally started back in 1970, and it's been getting added on to and improved all those years through this time, making this regional trail one of the most used greenway trails in central Ohio. It's known for its recreational use as well as for commuters, people getting from home to work and from work to home. You know, and certainly you go out there any weekend, you see all kinds of users, walkers, runners, people on their bikes, of course, people on rollerblades, the whole thing. But there is a section, as I'm sure you're familiar with it, highlighted in this green area there, where it's a part that right now you share the road. There's residential streets connecting over to Milton Street to cross North Broadway, and then back through the neighborhood streets again to connect back into the trail between Northmore and Clinton-Como Park. We are studying that piece to improve that connection with a dedicated, safer trail that will allow all users better access between those parks and through the trail from beginning to end. It will also be a project that will help to connect with properties over on the west side of the river, giving better access to jobs and commerce and other residences over there and back and forth across the river. So the city has been successful in obtaining a $3.7 million in federal transportation funds from the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. So that has been awarded to the project, and part of the reason that we're studying this right now, looking at alternatives. So where we are at, I guess we are here probably needs to get shifted over a little bit to the right since we're in the winter of 2021 now, but we're in our phase where we're conducting our stakeholder meetings with organizations like yours, leading up to our public meeting later in January that we've talked about and gotten the notifications out about that. But so we are completing our feasibility study, rolling out and presenting our alternatives to everyone, so that after the public meeting and a comment period, we'll be able to gather that input and make adjustments and identify a preferred alternative that we can then communicate out with folks, and then proceed on with our more detailed environmental studies and engineering, leading to putting together construction plans and preparing purchasing easements probably towards the fall of 2021 or into 2022. Kind of in that period there, we'll be in that process, so that in 2023 we should be in a position to begin construction of the project. So those are our goals. So this is a map that shows basically the existing yellow line represents the trail along the city streets or the residential streets that we use today. Northmore Park is over here up to the right, Clinton-Como to the left of the yellow line. You can see the Ohio Health Campus and Kohl's over on the other side of the river, clearly the river cutting through the middle, and then North Broadway. Our first alternative that we looked at, again, north being over to the right, the red line represents a paved trail. And so we leave Northmore Park on a paved trail, wind around, and we then get onto this blue represents a bridge that would completely cross over the Olentangy River. Our plan is that it would be a single span bridge. So it would go all the way from the outer floodway limits of the river all the way across with no piers in the water. And then we would have continue on a paved trail then on the other side, wind around up to the intersection at Ohio Health Boulevard and North Broadway, cross at the intersection at the traffic signal, and then come around along the front of the Ohio Health property, and then come along the west side of the river down to the southern part of the Ohio Health property. And for this alternative, what we looked at was taking a long bridge and going about 300 feet, kind of going diagonally over directly into Clinton-Como Park. So this has an advantage because, we wouldn't be crossing Sly Run and wouldn't necessarily be getting over on the Kohl's property. But this would be a more expensive and longer bridge, and because again, we don't want to put any piers in the water, so we would be going all the way across in one span. Plus, it'd be a much more prominent bridge than the other alternatives. This one over here is about 200 feet. So for comparison, this is about 50% longer than the other bridges that we're looking at. But that's alternative one. For alternative two, everything is pretty much the same on the northern part, but we looked at an alternative here in this southern portion where we would cross Sly Run that kind of comes down along between Coles and Ohio Health. We would cross that, go on a boardwalk, and then go on a bridge across the river that would be similar to the one on the north side in terms of its length, and then connect into the trail over in Clinton-Como Park. Alternative three would be, again, it's all pretty much the same to the north. We would cross Sly Run again. And with this one, though, we would run a paved trail kind of along the side of Cole's property and then cross the river kind of at the more middle part of Clinton-Como Park, south of the ball fields over here. And we would connect into the trail a little more centrally down here. And then our alternative four, what we did was we looked at, again, the piece north of North Broadway is the same, but after one would cross the North Broadway intersection, they would ride their bikes along the existing trail that's, or side path that's along the Ohio Health Parkway now. They would cross over the culvert that is over Sly Run and then kind of run along the Sly Run, kind of between Sly Run and Coles to come around to this, the bridge, similar bridge to what we showed for alternative two. Now, a couple of concerns with this one that we identified as we were looking at it are, one, we're concerned about more impacts to Sly Run, and two, about the safety of the trail kind of running back here along Coles with the trucks and deliveries and stuff that are getting made here were a concern. And also with Ohio Health's campus, the way they're set up, their parking garage is on the west side of Ohio Health Parkway and their building is on the east. So there would be conflicts, especially during peak times of the day, between trail users and the pedestrians walking back and forth between the parking garage and the office building. So those were some concerns there that we recognized right away with this alternative that would need to get worked out. And finally, we looked at a fifth alternative. And with this one, we looked at just keeping the trail on the east side of the river and not bridging over the river. Now, right off the bat, this wouldn't do anything to improve that connections over to the jobs and other residences on the other side of the river. That would they wouldn't get the connection or improved connection like the other alternatives would provide. But the paved trail would leave Northmore Park. It would come down through the woods. When it gets down to about here where my cursor is, this blue spot here is actually a wetland that we identified through our field work. And so in order to avoid impacts to that, we would have to go purchase easements from the residences along this part of the corridor, come up to North Broadway. We would have to have a mid-block crossing here, which we are very concerned about the safety of a mid-block crossing where there is not a traffic signal like what we have at Ohio Health or at Milton. We would cross over North Broadway, and then on the other side, there's a residence that's right on the river here, and there'd be no way to get the trail in between that residence and the river. And then the trail would continue on, though, to go down into Clinton-Como Park along Riverside Drive. We'd looked at this one to get some comparative, to get a comparison with the other alternatives and how this could work. But this one clearly does have some pretty significant challenges here for us on this one. So those are the 5 alternatives that we've looked at. And I will let Stephanie go ahead and close it out here or continue on with our presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Tom. So right now we'd like to open it up for Q&A. Chair White, how do you normally structure the Q&A portion? I'd be happy to field the questions, or do you have people put them in the chat? Oh, I think you're on mute. I'm sorry.
I apologize. I'm so sorry, Stephanie.
That's okay.
So I've been monitoring the chat window for questions, and I've also been monitoring the email address for questions. So I'm going to convey to you any questions from the public.
Great.
Or people who maybe just want to ask questions through the chat, through me. But otherwise, we'll open it up to the commission first for questions. If there's any members of the commission that would like to ask any questions.
BJ, could I toss in a question here, a couple?
Yeah, please do.
First of all, thanks so much for your presentation. This is so exciting that this project is finally coming to fruition, or at least creeping towards fruition. I mean, this is a big, big step forward, and I couldn't be happier that we're moving in this direction and beginning to have this discussion. I appreciate the thinking that goes into these, 5 alternatives. I would have to say, I think your 5th alternative, as you described, is difficult, and that might be a great understatement. A very, very heavy lift, I think, to make the 5th scenario work. The 4th one, I want to say, I think is almost as undesirable. Although it takes advantage of the street infrastructure that was put in between Ohio Health and its garage, and I think it does the trail a disservice to route the trail off onto that side street and then behind Coles, which I think is antithetical to the idea of being on the Olentangy Trail. So the ones that remain engaged with the river proper, I understand the expediency of needing to cross at a safe location. I had wished, I guess, maybe that there would be a way for us to have a grade separated crossing of North Broadway, and that maybe isn't possible. And I guess I understand that because there's some maybe vertical clearances there. The location of the bridge and how to clear it, I think that's a great discussion to have with the community. There may be some real strong preferences. Was there any study of the interface with the Lowhead Dam there? That's really, we have a number of Lowhead dams through Clintonville, and they're all, I think, problematic because they're kind of attractive nuisances that can be safety concerns. The one down in my southern edge of Columbus has been known to be a number of fatalities associated with, almost on a regular basis. So has there been any thought about, if the trail is bringing people in a sense a little closer or around the dam, how to manage the safety of that and maintain awareness that people should stay away from that? It's a dangerous condition.
Mm-hmm. As far as the removal of the dam, that's not anything we've contemplated. It's part of this project. That's I would say that we really haven't gotten to that point of the details of how we would manage that. It's a good point. I think we need to document that a little bit as far as something we might need to take a look at as we go further. But as far as signage or fencing or something like that, maybe there's a little bit more of that, and that's something we can take a look at. We did look at, as far as I think you had mentioned earlier up here at the North Broadway, and that bridge, it's just down too low to be able to get the trail underneath it, which is the challenge there with that. That's, like all things, at some point, someday that bridge may get replaced. And at that time, there would be the opportunity to come in and, thread that connection through under the bridge.
One of the things that I think in at least 1 or 2 of the letters that we did send to the city relative to this trail was the desire to have this happen in companionship with a better connection for pedestrians and cyclists on North Broadway. When they took out the exit ramp to create the Ohio Health campus, the existing North Broadway bridge there has some, I'll say, sort of spare width to it because part of the taper for the ramp was engaged with the bridge. And it seems to me like it's maybe low-hanging fruit for us to be able to put, a protected lane for cyclists and pedestrians to cross along south side of the bridge, which right now doesn't really have a sidewalk. It's a paved area just as the roadway is, but it's not even given the advantage of being at least curb separated, if not, a protected lane proper. But it seems to me like the bridge has the width and probably the capacity to have a protected lane there for cyclists and pedestrians. And it may simply be that there's an opportunity there for us to develop a good, very strong pedestrian connection that extends along that south edge of North Broadway to connect to the trail point there at the corner of the Ohio campus and on North Broadway there, where the two kind of merge together. I think that would be a very strong way of knitting the trail to the Clintonville community in a good way.
Mhm. We did look at that a little bit, and I guess a couple of the challenges that we saw with that was there wasn't a sidewalk continuing on, I believe, to the east of the bridge.
Right.
Kind of get back down.
Well, it's a case of kind of the sidewalk ends, and
yeah.
can we connect?
So there's nothing that would prevent something happening again in the future at some point, beyond the project. But I guess at this point we haven't really considered that as part of the project for that reason. It just looked like it was kind of ending there.
Tom, this is Brad. David, we've heard that numerous times, and there might be other folks at the meeting tonight to talk about that wide space on the south edge of North Broadway Bridge. Of course, you may know that's a Franklin County bridge, controlled by the city. And County Engineer Robertson would, I think, be open to looking at soft solutions, if I could call it that. Yeah. So, I agree with Tom. We have to be careful in the way that this project unfolds itself with federal regulations and what have you. You can easily have a project, the next thing you know, you're going far west and east, and we don't want to, right? We don't want to never complete it, quote unquote. But Tom, I think it would be good in our discussions with public service and with the county that we pick their brains on that and see what futures they think that they can be involved with us on it.
Yeah, Brad, to your point, I think it's an opportunity for the county engineer to sort of leverage some sort of contribution that they can make to have a bigger impact than if he was to do an investment just on his own. I mean, if there's a way for the county engineer to kind of make a bigger splash from what would probably be a small investment from his perspective, it might be a way to leverage your resources. It may not be that you have to essentially add it to your project, and maybe Brad, that's what you meant by a soft project, that it could be kind of done in companionship and cooperatively, but it doesn't really become part of your project specifically, but it maybe leverages it to happen.
Good comments, Dave. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks again for the presentation.
All right, I do have some questions in the chat that I'd like to give our presenter, Tom or Stephanie, an opportunity to answer. Are there any other questions from the commission?
I had 4 questions. I think they should be relatively quick, and then just one additional insight. And so I know there's an existing path on Olentangy River Road, and I don't see it on the diagram, and I know that's not the purpose of the diagram, but will there be a new path that's also created or considered in this project, or a soft project that goes along whatever Ohio Health Boulevard is that connects the two trails going, I guess, east and west to connect them? Are you familiar with that trail on Olentangy River Road?
Yes, and I believe that, of course, today there is the side path which you would be able to get to at this intersection here, and I think there is a trail existing already on this block here, if my memory serves me right, that would get you to the Olentangy River Trail there that way. So you'd be able to come down through here and then over this way and then cross.
And then to David's point, and so I actually work at the Bloom Administrative Campus, and I live on one of the very western houses of Brighton Road. So I do walk that bridge all the time. So having more safety there would be greatly appreciated. And there is a sidewalk on, I guess, the western side of the bridge, where it's that open side. The eastern side of the bridge, or sorry, the north side of the bridge, there's a dedicated up sidewalk. southern side of the bridge, there's nothing there, but there is a sidewalk that continues to go on when you go east-west. There's a little bit of mulch that I walk through, but then there's a sidewalk right there. And so having that dedicated protection would be super helpful, even if it's just wooden posts, because sometimes like, oh, it's 5 o'clock at night and I'm like, oh, I better be wearing a bright jacket in the wintertime. Not that I go there, but anything there. But I thought I'd give my additional insights there. And just looking at the front of the Ohio Health property, just curious if they've weighed in on it. And it just looks like there's very limited space, so don't need to comment there. But then addition for alternative 5, have any of the residents in Clintonville been contacted about that, or it's still just in the early phases in? Just curious. I know one of the people I reached out to said they didn't want them to be blindsided, and so we were working to make sure we got the message out to them. And
no, we haven't reached out to any of the specific property owners at this point, given the stage that it's at. We've just drafted up these concepts here, and the trail can certainly be adjusted as we go along and stuff like that. And I think that when we did this one, as David mentioned, and as I mentioned, this one seemed to have a lot of challenges to it. So we just didn't go any further with that at this point.
And then my final question, would there be any traffic accident studies going from like where it is maybe now where you'd consider it a highway? And I'm just curious, like the Milton Road exit, you kind of in the neighborhood at that point. And if you looked at like the Long Street, is there any differences in maybe the potential accidents that could occur with the change in there and like education or how we'd make that intersection safe, knowing that area, I would guess maybe people go faster than once they get in the neighborhood, they're like, oh, I'm in Clintonville, where that welcome to Clintonville sign is.
We're still going to be engaging with public service some more at the city there about this crossing there to kind of work out the details of the crossing. So I wouldn't say there's been any, at this stage, there hasn't been any specific study about how we're going to do that. I know that the intersection, the signal, when they put that in, it was put in with the intent that the trail could be connected up to it at one point. There are pedestrian signal heads, and we can look at the push buttons and so forth there to make sure that we maximize the safety of that intersection there.
Okay, is that all from you, Commissioner Pfeiffer?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'd like to go ahead and move on quickly to the public questions. From Kari Ingen, how do we negotiate the intersection at the entrance ramp from North Broadway turning right? What traffic controls will there be to prevent cars from turning right on red, not looking at cyclists?
Yeah, and that was what I was referring to there when I mentioned we're going to be going and interacting with the city's Department of Public Service to have some more conversation with them about that and how we would set that intersection up so that we can make sure we've got the safest type of arrangement there with that. So that's a detail we haven't gotten down to at this point, but that's the next phase of this.
Okay. The next question comes from Joe Motiel. Will $3.7 million cover the overall costs, whatever alternative proposal is chosen? If not, where will the additional funds come from?
The $3.7 million is the federal share of the project. So there is a local matching fund. So the remainder of the project cost would be coming from the city of Columbus.
Okay, this one's from Will Easton. Has an alternative using an overpass across North Broadway, similar to the over the river crossing at Goodale, been considered?
We considered that. That came up at actually another meeting that we had been to, and the issue is trying to get the trail and get it to climb up high enough to get over the road and back down again. It'd be very difficult to do that and make that so that it's easily traversable, especially meeting ADA requirements. So that wasn't, I guess it wouldn't work out in this case. That's where we looked at probably the better alternative would be at some point when that bridge gets replaced, we'd be able to come down and go underneath the Broadway bridge and come around there.
Okay. And this one comes from Laura Fay. What is the estimated acreage of impact in the riparian area of the from tree clearing for the trail and the buffer on each side and pavement addition.
Mhm.
What stormwater BMPs will be added to reduce impacts on the Olentangy?
Mhm. As we go forward with the further development, we'll be continuing to work with the city. We'll be following the city's requirements as well as the federal requirements for that. I don't have the specific numbers for you right now, but those will be in our study as we get that wrapped up. I know that we did identify the larger. She mentioned bat trees there. They mentioned bat trees. We did identify the larger trees that are roosting trees in that area there, which we are avoiding as part of the project. But we would be impacting obviously some of the trees through here, and we would have to work through what the mitigation of that would be as we go forward in the more detailed environmental studies.
This one comes from Joe Motiel. Will any additional safety measures be implemented for crossing West North Broadway or the new alternatives? How much additional funding will be coming from the city of Columbus?
So I think he was referring to this intersection here, the crossing there of West Broadway. And I think, again, that would be looking at the traffic signal adjustments that would need to be made there that I mentioned earlier, that we'll be working through the details of that as the project gets further developed. As far as the additional funding, it depends on the alternative that would be ultimately selected. Right now, the alternatives that we have on the table, the project costs I'm looking here, they range between a high of a little over 6 million to a low of about, accepting the alternative 5, it would be about 4 million, 4.7 million. So the remainder of that, again, would be the city, unless other additional funding can be sought from other agencies.
Okay. All right. And I apologize to you, Joe. I think I overlooked your first question only because the scroll window buried it. For alternative number 4, when does the Coles site get redeveloped by Crawford Hoying? Would truck traffic still be a concern from the redevelopment of that project?
We don't have any specific plans from Crawford Hoying. I have heard rumors that it's going to be redeveloped, but we don't have anything specific from them that they would be or not. So I guess we don't really know on that one.
All right, I think that's all the questions I have from the public right now. Okay. Anything else to close out this presentation with the presenter?
Chair White, could I ask one question?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. I am a frequent user of the trail, though it is not in my district, and I'm just really, really excited about these developments and the safety and accessibility that they will bring to the neighborhood. So really appreciate all of the planning and work that has went into this and the many years of work before I became a commissioner. And perhaps this is something that folks who've been around a little longer might already know, so I apologize if that's the case. But I would just love to know what the stakeholder engagement with the employers across the river has been, whether there is conversation around perhaps any investment from the private sector on any of these improvements that might benefit some of the folks that are, major employers across the river that we're grateful for in this project.
Mm-hmm. We've had some general conversations with them since I've been involved in the project. I don't know, Brad, if you want to add anything more to that from your experience with them over there.
Well, Brittany, you raise a good point, and yeah, there are conversations with Ohio Health and some of the folks over there. I think there is an interest as a community partner that they may be able to get involved in the project. For one thing, obviously, you can see they're a very key stakeholder just by the lay of the land on all of those west alternatives, Brittany, and that we keep them close in the loop. And I think we'll be talking to them next week or two. And so, to to your point about, gee, wouldn't it be great if others would financially contribute to the project? I mean, I'm going to chuckle here and say, wouldn't that be stunningly awesome? Of course. And we don't, we certainly don't have any means of saying whether that is or is not. I think the way this unfolds, Brittany, is the closer and the more and the better benefits that sometimes private employers can see, the more inclined they may be to, get involved with it. Whether it's donating property or whether it's providing funds or something. We haven't gotten that far down the road in the development piece of it, Brittany, and I thank you for bringing it up because it's it's certainly something that Recreation and Parks is hopeful for. Let's put it that way.
Understood. I really
brings,
appreciate that.
Yeah, Brittany brings up a really good point, and I think it would be to your advantage, Brad, to reach out not just to Ohio Health, who probably would benefit from being able to kind of embrace this project as part of their interest in developing health and wellness among their employee community and within the community at a larger scale. But also if Crawford Hoeing, and I don't know that they're that far into the concept or design process here, that they wouldn't look at a bike trail that literally is kind of coming right up to their door as a way to really embrace with their mixed use project, which is going to have a big residential component, I understand. They may sort of take this and sort of say, yeah, how can we kind of use this as a springboard? And maybe we market the whole residential community about a lifestyle brand that involves bicycling. And we have a bike shop on the first floor, and we have a bicycle repair, and we have a big quantity of ground floor bike storage for residents, and maybe it's a bike service station as well, so the trail users can add air to their tires and take a break while they're on the trail. It could be a great thing for them to sort of understand what you're doing and see how they can kind of embrace that idea and maybe add to the energy of what you're going to do with your investment dollars.
Well, thank you. Tom, Stephanie, I think we need to add David and Brittany to our optimistic development team, a part of our project here, and because they are thinking, and I like the enthusiasm and the connections that you're making there. Thanks for that, because we'll certainly keep that in frontline consideration. Excellent points.
Thank you.
All right. Does that conclude our questions?
It looked like there were three additional questions in the chat box.
Yes. Yes, we do have those questions. I'm going to go ahead and forward those to you.
Sure.
I have a question from email right now, but we are running out of time.
Absolutely.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these questions and send them to you in email format, and then we'll circle back to the senders of the questions. Okay.
That would be great. So again, we really want to thank you for your time, and we hope we'll see you in 2 weeks at our public meeting, also on Zoom.
And thank you again. We appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks,
thank you.
everyone. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
All right, we are moving a little bit late. Now it's 8:30. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to, Otter Cinziano, are you here?
Present and accounted for.
Okay, Michael, we're going to get to you here in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and scratch my discussion that I was going to have at 8:40 for the climate action plan. I'll follow up with everybody with an email on that. Commissioner Garrison, would you like to provide your blueprint updates in the format of an email and a notation to Commissioner Bolton for preparation of the minutes?
Yeah, I think that's probably the most appropriate under the circumstances. A lot of this stuff is available online, as well as best represented possibly in a text and graphic format. So, the only thing that I did want to note is that if you have an urgent need for their updates, you can look at our CAC website, which Ty's posted, and then also kind of thank the ongoing efforts of the Blueprint team, as well as the local level, specifically Elizabeth Patno, who's on this meeting today, and some of the others who keep raising these concerns and keep the discussion going.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, and we'll look forward to your email with added notation to the preparation of the minutes. And then I will forego my discussion on the climate action plan and send that around in email format and follow up with Brittany for notation on the minutes. And we'll go ahead and welcome Franklin County Auditor Michael Stenziano for discussion of real estate taxes. So he's here.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. As I was just texting with a group of friends, it's not even been a full week since Ohio State beat Clemson. So every day seems very long. For those that don't know, I'm Michael Stenziano. I have the honor of serving as your Franklin County Auditor. As auditor, we have a variety of responsibilities. One of the biggest ones we partook in was the completion of the triennial property appraised value process. It's a statutory requirement under Ohio law. The big ones, the mass that occurred in 2017, we go out and view each parcel. Then in a 3-year increment, the tri, based on real estate prices, we update property values across the county. So all 430,000 properties were reviewed. In December, we sent out the final value mailing for any property owner that participated in our informal hearing process. For those that didn't, the values from the tentative carried into the as your final value. And so the window we're in now, and what I wanted to share was as property owners are receiving their tax bills sent out by the county treasurer, they went out on Monday the 4th. We're getting a lot of questions about now the values. What can we do? What are our next steps if we think the value is too high? So in Ohio Revised Code, we have a Board of Revision process. Board of Revision is made up of the auditor's office, the treasurer's office, and a Board of Commissioners representative. And we review and hear formal complaints regarding property valuations. Typically, it's individuals who feel the value is too high, and we then work with them to address it. Give me one second. Can you please turn that volume down? Thank you. Sorry about that. And so really want people to understand the Board of Revision, take advantage of it. We have a great opportunity in Franklin County that if you're seeking a difference of less than $50,000, you can go into our mediation program where a third-party mediator will hear the two sides, property owner side, and then essentially the county side. But it's the next opportunity for folks that have concerns on property values, then how it kind of coincides with your taxing district, which is what leads to the property tax bill, which is what we're getting a lot of questions about. Some new features as well for the update. Because of the pandemic, traditionally the office goes out and we hold a Board of Revision and formal filing events. The office does a roadshow. We share, this is the documents you need, this is how you file, and make sure we're answering any questions. Historically, Clintonville has been a very active spot on that roadshow, and because we are not able to hold them in person, we are doing virtual Board of Revision informal events. And so for the rest of January, we're going to have one on the 11th, on the 19th, and on the 25th. They're all on Facebook Live at M. Stenziano. Anyone that will be joining those Facebook Lives can ask questions or submit them in advance, or you can always message me or email me your questions, and we will do our best to complete them. In addition, we're excited. We have launched in January one e-filing system. Before you couldn't e-file, you had to come down to the office, fill out the form. We now have the capability. We're excited, and we were planning on it without the expectation of the pandemic making it difficult. But for individuals to be able to just submit the documentation electronically. And what's good in that regard is the state form suggests you need a notary. You don't need a notary. A court case says that is not needed, but the state has not updated the form, even though they've been asked multiple times. So with the e-filing, you skip that confusion in that step as well. And then the third feature I wanted to share is we are also launching a pro bono assistant program for the Board of Revision. And so for low to moderate income homeowners that are filing complaints that have questions or concerns on how to fill it out, we are working with legal aid and some other great stakeholders to complete that form. And then if you qualify, you will have the opportunity to have representation at that Board of Revision hearing or mediation as well. So as you all may hear questions about the property values, this is within the Ohio law where we're at, and wanted just to pass along those updates, those features, and happy to answer any other questions you may have.
All right, any questions from commissioners for Auditor Cinziano?
I had one question that seems to be, aside from just checklist items and other stuff, for the people who might be watching or watch later or, ask questions about this, I'm sure that some of the things that your office does and with the valuations and whatnot can be better understood by the people that wish to, have some contest of that revaluation. So I'm wondering if you can possibly give a 1 or 2 point overview of like what kind of homework could they do to try to prepare for contesting the values, things, not necessarily hiring someone to do an appraisal of their house, but to get them in the mindset of coming to common language with your office when they talk about it.
Absolutely. So outside of doing an independent third-party appraisal and presenting that as one of the files, one of the best things you can do is go to the auditor's website and look at comparable sales. The try is built off of those sales, but if you feel maybe we included the wrong neighborhood features or that there's potential sale outlier. So in my neighborhood, someone flipped the house, sold it for almost twice as much as what we paid for ours, and that was accounted in our try. Those are things that any property owner can go to on the website, do that search. You can set the parameters you want of the houses, and that's helpful. So looking for other similar lots, features, and what those sale prices are. In addition, if there's features inside your house, we don't go inside any properties. And so we're relying on updates from that property owner. So sharing conditions, sharing old, not appliances, but water heaters or AC units. That information is helpful as well. And so being able to have some of that documentation of, we have this, it's that old, that value isn't contained inside this house, that is going to help in the next steps of the BOR.
Thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
All right, anyone else?
I do, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And this is probably personally driven, but maybe it'll help some others. I was curious because I don't practice in this area, but I've heard from others that do. You can also perhaps get a credit for if you've had extraordinary remodeling costs or things involving whatever it would be, like expenses that it took to, I guess, raise the value of your house.
So we wouldn't be, I'm not aware of us giving any credits. What we're trying to do is establish the right value. So if you're saying, I spent additional money to get to this improvement, that's how much it costs versus maybe we're appraising a sunroom at a larger amount than you feel you paid for, that would be helpful information.
Would it also be helpful information if you had to go through an immense amount of litigation to get to where you were? And by litigation, I mean that you've had to knock down like what was built and rebuild it?
I think anything that lets us know better the specifics of that property is of value in the Board of Revision process.
Very good, thank you. Sorry, like I said, that was a personal question.
No.
All right, we've put down some helpful tips and some links to some of the before mentioned things that Auditor Cinziano spoke about. It's printed on their agenda, and that will also be noted in our minutes, which will be published. And
Chair
then
White, I see, can I jump in on Joe Motil's question?
oh, yes, yes.
So thanks, Joe, for the great question. So one of the things we heard early on, and it was actually at a Congresswoman Joyce Beatty Affordable Housing Forum, was a lot of concern about property taxes, property taxes, property taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And we are very sensitive and do not intend for this process to be property taxing people out of their neighborhoods, their communities. So we worked with Herschel Craig in drafting legislation that would create a circuit breaker. A number of jurisdictions, some municipalities, but mostly states have this circuit breaker so that when there would be a large increase, because seeing the value improve of your property is a good thing. Under Ohio law, though, when we tie it to the other provisions, that's where it gets concerning for folks. So Herschel introduced it. It did not go anywhere. It continues to be top of mind and something we're continuing to evaluate. As Brittany pointed out, because it's a new GA, we're starting from scratch. Some of the Central Ohio delegation are interested in maybe not what was originally drafted because there was no cap in terms of who could apply or not apply. So the criticism was if I own a home in New Albany, it's going to apply just as much as Clintonville, and there could be a $700,000 difference. We weren't trying to make it perfect. We just wanted to get the discussion going and see where the General Assembly would take it. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere. So that's some of the things that are being evaluated, but I fully expect something will be reintroduced in the first 3 to 4 months of the new General Assembly.
Chair White, can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I've been helping some friends with appeals, and some of them have gone well, and I've discouraged some others from even appealing. And I was interested to see your new form that was posted after the taxes were posted. Most of the people I know appealed before, but there's some really logical questions in there, like asking if the person had purchased their house within the last 3 years, and also what remodeling they've done. Because of course, if someone's trying to argue that, you know, the house is worth less than they purchased it for a year ago, that's going to be a really tough argument. So when I say I discourage some people, I have had some questions like that. And of course, if the house had a full narrative appraisal 9 months ago at $350, it's obviously worth $350. But at any rate, with Herschel Craig's bill and the tweaking that's gone with it, has that gone up for a vote at all, or does it just get passed over?
So Herschel introduced it, I want to say February, and then COVID happened, and it no longer was a priority of the General Assembly.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say it was passed over. I know in our advocacy within the Auditors Association, I know in talking with other members of the Central Ohio delegation, as well as other folks across the state, again, it's top of mind. The challenge just has been with the COVID impacts and what the General Assembly was focusing on. It did not move to anyone's top of the list. But I think it continues to be a concern. What we saw, we had 40 some counties across the state do either their mass or their tri, and a number of them were going back and forth with the Department of Taxation about what their increased values were. In Franklin County, our average increase was 20%. A lot of those other counties, they had maybe a 16% increase, but they wanted to come in at 7%. At the end of the day, it's actually the Department of Taxation that signs off. They have the authority, if you don't agree with the rate they want you to sign off on, to withhold 50% of your local government funds. So that's their stick. And so, again, I think the valuation's one piece, then how it ties in and coincides with taxing districts to get to those property taxes. That's where I think we'll have more of a discussion this year in this General Assembly.
So you think this will move forward?
I think it's always tough to know with the new General Assembly and 30 plus new members what their priorities are. I think as residents continue to contact their members of the General Assembly and share their concerns about the way in property taxes are built off property values, plus a number of bonds, levies, issues, that will continue to be top of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the odd thing now is with the interest rate dropping so low for home purchases, which kind of has helped keep the real estate market going.
I've noticed.
2.5% is amazing. But now when you look at how people's monthly payments break down, in many cases, their amortization, what they're paying per 100,000 in their monthly payment is less than what their tax allotment is. I mean, the tax bill becomes the biggest part of the payment. So a $300,000 mortgage, the interest on that is less than the taxes and insurance. It's really kind of upside down. But
well, and you know, the General Assembly is going to make changing the way in which we fund education in the state of Ohio a priority. Again, many years in the making, but it seems the House got something passed. The Senate was committed to do it, and this General Assembly. As long as this process continues to be primarily funding education, I think that's also been a little bit of the hesitation, that anything that touches those education dollars is a concern, and understand we've gotten pushback from Herschel's legislation by school districts, but we also hear so much from neighbors. And you know, had an email from a older resident in Clintonville today, and her concern is, I'm not going to be able to stay in my home, or I'm not going to be able to survive on my fixed budget because this property tax keeps going up, and we need to do better there.
If somebody has $2,500 a month in Social Security income and then has a $900 tax bill, I mean, that's more than a third of the money they have.
Yeah, I mean, so some of the state circuit breaker is once you reach a certain age, that value then holds. So you can do that. So we can still do our valuation process, but until there's a sale or a change in circumstance, so the homeowner passes away, then we would not trigger that ongoing value. But again, trying to set that rate. And so that was something we also looked at. We were challenged, though, that not everyone would be benefiting, and this is a problem in other parts of our community as well for different reasons.
The circuit breaker doesn't benefit everyone. It just benefits, of course, those on a fixed income, right?
As drafted under Senator Craig's legislation, it was everyone. Other states do a little more targeting circuit breaker.
Right.
And so if the General Assembly would be supportive of that, I think anything that is addressing this concern, even if it's just half a loaf, would be a good step in the right direction.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much for the answer.
Of course.
Auditor Stenziano, I've got a question from the public. Can you tell us if the presence of rain gardens, particularly the vault style rain gardens, was taken into the account for the assessment?
So the triennial assessment, again, is based on real estate values. So the extent that real estate values continue to go up, up, and up, yes, they were taken into account. In terms of specific features and the impact that would have on that parcel, that would be part of the mass appraisal, which we're not going to have again in our cycle till 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Can I follow up really quick on that? Just specific to that question, to your point before, what you said about comparable values or sales for things, if there's not a real easy way to compare the presence of a rain garden, let's say, something that the homeowner would think is not an attractive feature, some sort of more utilitarian infrastructure improvement, how do they quantify that or qualify it to your office in terms of presenting that information for,
So I've not seen it directly quantified, and I think that would help if you were filing the complaint and saying this is why we feel our value is less because of this. There are absolutely circumstances where people are on busy roads or there's intersections that aren't desirable that the triennial statistical analysis doesn't take into account. So participating in the BOR, providing that information is helpful. But I would leave it to each property owner to decide what they feel that impact or value is. We don't necessarily have a specific, a rain garden value impact is X.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, any more questions for Auditor Cinziano? All right, I just want to say my biggest concern is that I think that we've enjoyed the luxury of stable real estate taxes, and I know that this is going to be a big shot in the arm for a lot of people. You know, this is a pretty big pill to swallow, but I would just hope that the Board of Revision and your office would take into consideration some of the other priorities of the city, like so much attention being paid to aging in place and how so many people are on those fixed incomes, and we don't want to price people out of their homes. You price people out of the homes that they live in when you look at fair market rent value and you look at the availability for senior housing, it becomes quite a puzzle to solve. And I really feel like those who are retired, who are on fixed incomes, who have lived in Clintonville, feel safe here, have a sense of community, understand the commerce. They don't want, you know, they're still able to live in their home comfortably, and it doesn't put any more physical demands on them, but it puts a financial burden on them. And I just want to make sure that you understand that there are going to be people who are really going to feel this pinch. So
absolutely understand that. I appreciate you raising it. You know, we are doing our best, and we also have a low income program as well. My instinct is some of the residents we're talking about probably wouldn't qualify, but we're always open to working with them as well. But we hear the concern and doing our best to address it under current law. Ideally, we would see changes to law.
well, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. And I don't know what we need to give you for your frequent flyer miles with the CAC, but you're always making yourself available to us. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, we're at 8:55. We're running out of time for the deer discussion. Commissioner Weatherholt, can we put that first on the agenda in February? First in February?
Yeah, and I'm going to do some thinking and talking to some other people, and we'll get back on that also.
I'm so sorry to you, Commissioner Weatherholt.
And that's really helpful, BJ, because I will hopefully have some more information by then as well.
Okay. So all right. So there's lots of really good information that I published on page 2 of the agenda. Commissioner Bolton shared with us a zoning code update. I've posted the link to that. Reporting porch thefts. There's been some talk around the neighborhood. I don't know if it's been on some social media platforms where people are saying the police aren't accepting reports if you have items stolen from your front porch, like the Amazon deliveries or whatnot, but they are. And I've included a link that you can file those porch thefts online. So you can just click on that link and you can report if you've had a package stolen. There's also lots of help out there related to COVID, and those who find themselves in need, who have maybe never had to ask for help before, maybe don't know where to turn for help. There's the CARES Act Utilities Assistance information. I've included the link to that. So if you need some help, some funds to heat your house, keep your electric turned on, there's a link for that. There's also the MORPC winterization program where they help. I've known people who have actually had their furnace replaced through the MORPC winterization program. There's that. Also, what might be of import to some of you, Council Residential Districting Commission application process. I received an email from Council Member Emmanuel Remy, who has invited us to spread this information about. This is the redistricting going from council members at large to assigned jurisdictions. So this is talking about forming a commission that kind of helps engage to be that intermediary between the council and certain communities. And this is by design. This is forming a commission to help design those districts. Let's see, the Clintonville Area Commission Mobility Plan is now posted on the website. I happened to discover that in discussions with our Planning and Development Chair, Andrew Overbeck. Discovered that was not in the website. So we, one of the good things is that we kind of are completing the website and filling voids of information there. And then just some other miscellaneous information just to share. So I always try to give you lots of good information, if not for discussion, something to grow on. So feel free to take this information and share with your constituency. Talk to anybody who might be able to benefit from it. Also, Andrew just posted in the chat that we've had 900 responses on the survey, and we're going to continue to keep it open, but hurry and encourage people to participate in that. It'd be really great to get at least 1,000 responses on that survey. So do what you can to maybe get 100 more people to respond to that survey. And anything else from anyone for the good of the group?
I have one last thing. I'm so sorry. When I did the minutes introduction earlier, I think I got a motion in a second, but we didn't do a roll call. So if we could just do a roll call, Chair White, that'd be great.
Now that Kendra's here. Okay. So yes, we did get a motion to vote to accept the minutes. We'll go ahead and call roll. District 1.
Yes.
District 2.
Yes.
District 3. District 3. Okay. District 4.
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7.
Yes.
District 8.
Yes.
And District 9 votes yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else for the good of the group? All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Thank you much, everybody. Keep up the good work. Happy New Year and keep it going.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.